Hello, Algebra 1 students. We're ready for Section 3 of Chapter 4. I have a couple of review questions for you to do on your own, but I'm going to start this video getting busy with the new material. Point slope form looks like this. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Now, x sub 1, y sub 1, we've seen that before when we talked about slope formula. That just means that if I give you a point, the first point I give you, we call those sub 1 to stand for the first point. This x and y, however, are the x and y that are always left in a linear equation because, as we've said before, there are an infinite number of points on a line. So there's an infinite number of x and y's that could go here. And then m will change depending on our line and its slope. And of course there'll be different x sub 1, y sub 1. So let me show you how that's going to work. Here's a review for you, a little synopsis of point slope form. But our first example says to write the point slope form of an equation for a line that passes through -2, 10. That's our x and our y, and it's the only point they're going to give me, so it's the first point they gave me, and it has a slope of -3 halves, so that's our slope, m. So the equation says y minus y sub 1, my y sub 1 here is is 10. I almost made that common mistake that most people make, getting my x and y's mixed up. Our m here is -3 halves, and then it's x minus x sub 1, and our x sub 1 was -2. So whenever you have minus a negative, that turns positive. And there you have it. Y minus 10 equals -3 halves x plus 2, because we had minus a negative. That is the linear equation in point slope form. All right, my next example, I think I've made a typo here. It says write the equation in point slope, but actually these equations are already in point slope. We're going to need to identify our x sub 1 and our y sub 1. And here it is. This is y and this is x, and since the formula is negative, then they're going to be a positive 1 and 5. That's my x sub 1, y sub 1. And then my slope is always found outside of the parentheses, and my slope here is -1 half. So it says to graph the equation. So for number 1, I'll make it our blue line. The first point I find is 1. Go over 1 and up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's that point. It's on our line. One of many infinite points. And if my slope is -1, 2, I can go from that point down 1 and to the right 2. Or I could go up 1 and to the left 2. Just so one of the two are negative. I need a straight edge to make this neater, but there's a rough sketch of that line. Okay, we'll use red for number 2. My point that I've been given here is 3 because it's a negative, and that's in the formula. The formula, if you'll go back up here, is a subtraction sign. So if I have a x minus 3, that means x was positive. But here, since it's y plus 3, I know that must have been a -3 originally, because when you plug it into the equation, the negative made it turn positive. Okay, so my point is 3, -3, and my slope is 2/3. So there again, I can start from 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, -3, 1, 2, 3. And my slope, I rise 2, run 1, 2, 3. Or I can go -1, 2, and -1, 2, 3. Because negative over negative makes positive. And there's the second line. I'll use green for our third line. And since I do not have anything with the y, that means that my y is 0 and my x is plus 2, so that must mean the original was negative 2 because minus a negative turned it positive. So there's the point from point slope. My slope is 3 over 2, so I'm going to start with the point they gave me, negative 2, 0, and from there I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3 and run 1, 2, or down 1, 2, 3 and to the left 1, 2, and there's the line for number 3. Now, just for the record, slope-intercept is still my favorite. Y equals mx plus b. And you can take any of these equations and convert them to slope-intercept. But when they give us a point and a slope, when that's what's given, then it's quickest and easiest to use point slope sometimes. So just know that you have lots of options, but I will try to encourage you to be able to use any form. Okay, so having said that, I'm going to leave A for you to practice putting it in point slope because they've given you a point and a slope. And I'm going to work B with you because this one's a little bit different. They did not give you the slope. So the first thing I have to do is find the change in y over the change in x. And that's going to be 6 minus 3 over negative 2 minus 2. And that's going to give me 3 over negative 4. So there's my slope. So I need a point to do point slope. Let's review the formula. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So now I've found slope. My slope is negative 3/4. Now if I only had an x and a y, well, I actually have two x and y's. So I can pick either one that I want. I just randomly decided I'd choose 2, 3. So it's going to be x minus, and my x here is 2, and then y minus, and my y for the point that I chose is 3. So it's y minus 3 equals negative 3/4 times x minus 2. And I just chose this one maybe because it didn't have a negative, but you have the right to choose. And that would be an equation for that line in point slope form. Okay, I'm going to leave you the concept summary. It reviews everything. Before I move on to my next example, Mia, why did you tell me the lion ate the 2 tightrope walkers? Didn't you tell me that he ate 2 tightrope walkers? A lion did? Why did he eat them?
Because he likes a well-balanced diet.
A what? He likes a what?
A well-balanced diet.
A well-balanced diet. Okay, that's a good one. My daughter, the comedian. Okay, sorry about that. Let's get back to algebra. Okay, it says here to write this equation in standard form. And the equation that they've given me here is in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take y equals 3/4 x minus 5 and try to make it look like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the fraction because I have the power to undo fractions. So if I multiply everything times 4, then my equation turns into 4y equals 3x minus 20. Now I need to do a little rearranging. If I subtract 3x, then I'm getting a little bit closer to home. Negative 3x plus 4y equals negative 20. But wait a minute, there's some rules about a. A cannot be negative, a cannot be a fraction, and there cannot be a greatest common factor of all 3 a, b, and c numbers. So I don't think there's a greatest common factor because 3 is not divisible into 4 or 20. And so here I can divide everything by negative 1 or multiply everything times a negative 1. Either way, if you multiply by negative 1, I forgot to put the 1 on this negative. multiply everything by negative 1, then it's going to leave us with a positive 3x, a negative 4y equals a positive 20. So there it is, this equation in standard form. All right, take it from point slope to standard form. The first thing I have to do is distribute that 2. So y minus 3 equals 2x plus 8, because 2 times 4 is 8. Again, I can take the 2x to the other side, or I could bring everything over. I don't want to confuse anyone, so I'll stick to subtracting 2x. How about if I go ahead and add 3? I hope that that's not too big of a leap. I have negative 2x plus y equals 11. But again, my a cannot be negative. So when I go through and I multiply everything by negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, everything, I end up with a positive 2x, a negative y equals a negative 11. And the greatest common factor is 1. So there I go. All right, moving right along, write this equation in slope-intercept form. So now I'm going to take it, distribute my 4/3. Let me change colors. So y minus 5 equals 4/3 x minus 4/3 of 3 is going to give me a negative 4. And I want to isolate the y, so I'm going to add 5. So y equals 4/3 x plus 1. That wasn't so bad. There it is in slope-intercept. Here's the slope, and here's the y-intercept. So subtract 3x from both sides. 2y equals negative 3x. I put that in front because that's my slope. Plus 6. But wait a minute, I need to isolate the y, so divide everything by 2. And y equals negative 3/2 x plus 3. There it is in slope-intercept form. So as I mentioned on the other page, you need to be comfortable with all of the different forms. Okay, for the sake of time, I've gone ahead and started this problem. It says, look at the trapezoid to the right. And the first one says, write an equation in point-slope form for the line BC. So I'm going to highlight BC here. And they've given me 2 points. B is 4, 3, and C is 6, negative 2. Uh-oh, that's a negative 2, and my pen sometimes doesn't catch that, so I think I'm going to have a problem. So changing y, 3 minus a negative 2 becomes plus 2. See how it doesn't catch? So that's going to actually be 5 over a negative 2, because we have 6 minus, or 4 minus 6. So that's a negative 2. So 5 over negative 2 is my slope. Use either point to write it in point slope. I typically pick the one that doesn't have a negative, so it's y minus 3, so I'm picking the first point, equals negative 5/2 times x minus 4. There we go. Write an equation now in standard form for the same line. So I can take my point slope form and turn that into standard form by distributing my 5/2 to both the x and the 4, and that's going to be negative 20 over 2, which is negative 10. So adding 5/2 x to both sides gives us 5/2 x plus y. I'm going to go ahead and add 3 to both sides, equals negative 7. I can't have a fraction for my a, so let's multiply everything by 2. It's supposed to be a 2. And then that gives me 5x plus 2y equals negative 14. And there it is. Oh, in standard form. Wait a minute, I forgot to check, but luckily nothing goes into 5, 2, and negative 14. So I am finished in standard form. All right, check your progress, see how you can do on B.